All right, guys. So today we are doing another comic interview with a brand new writer who just put out his Kickstarter yesterday. It is already successful, but we want to make it more successful. That's what we do here. We want to make all the comic writers as successful as possible, and then they make Netflix shows. But I'm here today to introduce Damien Becton. Did I do it right?
Becton, I'm sorry.
Damien here has put out a Kickstarter for his new comic. I put a little teaser up about a week ago. You guys saw it. A lot of you were like, whoa. That trailer was pretty awesome, and I agree. You don't usually get trailers for a comic, so it's really nice to see every once in a while, especially with that music, man. That epic, I love that epic like God of War music going on. But yeah, I'm gonna let you introduce yourself, just kind of give them an idea about the comic a little bit and how the Kickstarter's going.
Yeah, I'm Damien Becton. Nice to meet you guys. Thanks for having me. I'm a teacher, actually. I'm a teacher in Charlotte, North Carolina. Sixth grade English teacher. So right now I'm on break. I'm on summer break. So a lot of my time is going to this Kickstarter for Worlds Away. And actually I've been working on Worlds Away for quite a few years now. I had a Kickstarter a couple years ago that wasn't successful. So I had to go back to the drawing board, and I kind of put my ducks in a row. And it kind of, the past 3 or 4 years, I've just been prepping it. It actually went through a couple of artists, and we found a couple of them for this first issue, and it's finally happening. We're actually, like you said, and I appreciate that. It's pretty successful at the beginning. One day in, we're like 75% funded.
That's freaking awesome.
I appreciate that, man. I honestly do not know where that came from, but I appreciate all the support. But yeah, it's looking good so far, and hopefully the rest of the campaign will do well. I have 29 days to make 2,500. Just cross your fingers for me, brother, and hopefully we'll make it happen.
All right. Well, with the big thing that I like to talk about, because people can see I'm going to be putting images up as we're talking and everything, and I'll probably play the trailer a couple of times. What is the story about? So I've read that first 4 pages that you put up on Twitter the other day, and I was like, I'm in. The second you have kind of a character who's just like, damn, this situation's horrible. But what is the story about? Like just a broad statement of like kind of what type of, so I know it's in space, and it's so it's like a sci-fi. You said sci-fi, basically like God of War?
God of War, and I'm pitching it, and it's mostly true. I would say it's probably like 95% true. It's more God of War than Radiant Black, but the look of it, the costumes of it is very Power Rangers, very Radiant Black. But it's more God of War than anything. Not so much of the God part, but the relationship between the characters. So Worlds Away, in a nutshell, it's a really simple story. It's a mother trying to, who's a soldier, and she has this armor like a Power Rangers or a Radiant Black or Iron Man armor. It's set in a futuristic universe, but it's simply just a mother that is willing to do whatever it takes to get her and her daughter off this mystical, magical planet, a dangerous planet as well.
You know, it's funny. I was talking to my friend the other day, and I'm like, man, we have so many stories with like a father trying to protect their daughter or son. I'm like, why don't we ever have stories about like the mother? Like usually mothers are the ones that are even more protective. And so
I promise you, when people ask me about it, this character is my mother, because I know I'm 31 years old, and my mother will text me every single day and ask me if I ate today. But this character, Serenity, she is my mother. She's loosely inspired by my mother, because this character, Serenity, the mother, she's this heartless, cold, well, to her daughter, she's heartless, she's cold, she's mean, all these different things. But she's doing that. She's that way to protect her daughter, to make sure that her daughter is safe. And the daughter, Mackenzie, she is more kind. She's more like her father. She's kind, she's thoughtful, she's compassionate. And because of that, they're very they come into a lot of conflicts throughout the story. They butt heads a lot. But like I said, she's 12, 13 years old, and she's a little bit too young to kind of understand that. But at the same time, Serenity is like, she is only 13 years old. You got to show a little compassion. But like I said, she's trying to do whatever it takes to get off of this dangerous, crazy planet.
Yeah, now I get what you mean by God of War vibe, because that's pretty much that feeling of like Kratos being more of an overprotective, but also kind of seems like cruel, but really not. He's just this is the
Absolutely.
way he is. So with that, my big question, my first big one is, then she might be the one that's your favorite, but who is your favorite character to write for this story? Because it's always one that's always so much fun to write.
Yeah. I did enjoy writing Mackenzie, who is the daughter. Mackenzie, she's so cool. Because I'm a middle school teacher, a lot of the character traits that I base her off of was some of the students that I've had throughout the years. They're young, they're silly, they kind of trying to figure out their way. But I would say that my favorite character, right? There's not too many in this very first issue. There's like 3 or 4 main characters that you'll run into. But it has to be Serenity, the one based off my mother, because she is that cold, that heartless type of person. But you'll see exactly why she is if you choose to pick it up. She's, like I said, she knows what this planet is like. Well, actually, she doesn't know what this planet is like, but she knows that there could be anything out there. So she's not taking any chances to get she's not taking any chances to get out. It's really tough for her, and it's going to be tough for Mackenzie as well.
Yeah, I mean, what a story where you have that kind of one character who can defend everybody. It's
Mhm.
such an interesting thing because usually they're either very very hopeful and very Superman like, or they're like kind of more like her where it's I have to protect him by any means, and if that means that I'm the asshole, well then that's just how it's going
That's
to be.
absolutely it.
But with that, so without doing too much spoilers, and I know you're just getting into the story now, was there a scene or maybe an issue or a plot line that to you was the hardest thing to write? Maybe it was just from personal experience, or just
Mhm.
you couldn't figure out how to get from point A to point B. Was there a scene like that in there?
Yeah, there is actually like right in the middle. The first draft of the story, it was kind of dialogue heavy. It was kind of yeah, mom is mean. Mackenzie saying mom is mean, and it was a lot more telling and not showing. So I had to come up with a way, some sort of obstacle that would actually show how Serenity is towards her daughter Mackenzie. Um, and I think I found a good median because I didn't want them to go straight into a full-blown battle immediately. You'll and trust me, you'll get that fight scene in issue 1. There's an obstacle in the way halfway through the issue where we're able to see why or how Serenity is this heartless, this cold um, type of mother to Mackenzie. And it was really fun to write. And shout out to Christian, who's the artist on it. He made it look better than I imagined. I said, hey, can you put this cliff right here? And then he messaged me back. He said, hey, what about if we do it this way? I was like, go ahead, man. It looks perfect. And he killed it. But yeah, I think that scene, just changing it from this dialogue heavy scene about her mother, Serenity, being cold and mean to actually showing it, trying to get over this obstacle. I think that's probably my favorite thing to write so far.
What's interesting is I think that's a huge thing for writers. I know you write and I like to write. And my hardest part of writing, in my opinion, is when I overwrite. Like I just love dialogue, but I'm also like, I read so many comics, obviously,
Mhm.
and I'm reading them. I'm like, they don't need to tell me all this. Like I can see this. And I say that when I'm reading it, but then when I write, I start
Yeah,
overwriting. So it's great that you're already working with the artist on that level where they can be like, hey, what about this? And you're like, yeah, that's better. And when you reach that level, a comic comes out 10 times better because now you're actually working together instead of one writer, one artist. You're a team.
yeah.
So to be on that level already, that makes me excited for the rest of the series if that's on issue 1. But with that, I know we're talking about God of War as an inspiration for this, but do you have, what are some of your biggest inspirations in general? It doesn't just have to be for this comic that you're writing now, but like from comics, movies, TV shows. Are there some that really kind of make you want to write a certain way or a certain style?
Absolutely. So I was born in 91. I'm 31 years old. So I grew up with the PlayStation. I didn't have, I had friends who had the Nintendo 64, but me and my brother had a PlayStation. And the biggest game, still my favorite game, I have tattoos of it. I have a tattoo right here and I have a tattoo right here of it, is Final Fantasy 7. Final Fantasy 7,
The
Final
class.
Fantasy 9, 9, 10. I kind of teetered off after 10 2, but the biggest thing was Final Fantasy 7, and a lot of the Final Fantasy 7, Final Fantasy in general is a huge inspiration for anything that I've been writing so far. It's I tend to write a lot of science fiction slash fantasy things, so you'll see a lot of robots versus dragons, laser beams versus swords, and things like that. I have another project that I'm working on that's very inspired by Final Fantasy 9 um, specifically. But a lot of the times that when I come up with an idea or if I come up with a story, a lot of it will be, like I said, science fiction and fantasy and just swords and guns and um, this whole mishmash of magic versus science and things like that. But if I had to choose one, Final Fantasy 7 and The Last of Us. A lot, actually, the story, it kind of, the Last of Us Part 1, it kind of evolved from that. It evolved from The Last of Us inspired story to a God of War that kind of mashed together with the science fiction stuff. And it's turning out well. I'm very excited for how it's turning out.
Yeah, I mean, I got two questions with that. One is the feel of this is well, it is sci-fi. Obviously, when you first look at it, like you said, it kind of has that radiant black feel, which is great because I think radiant black is awesome. But with that, I definitely get a fantasy vibe. It almost reminds me. I don't know if you've read Black Science. That's kind of the feel I have when I was first looking at those
Mhm.
pages, but more. I don't want to say upbeat, but more colorful, more definitely relying on that fantasy element inside sci-fi. Because usually I'm not a huge sci-fi fan, but I am a huge fan when I see genres clash, and
Mhm.
that's what made me excited. When I first saw that cover, I was like, this is like Power Rangers on crack, and I love the Power Ranger comics. But I always want that more mature, and I feel like Radiant Black does that, but more of a down to earth, almost like Invincible without the superhero stuff. So this looks like that sci-fi version of that more mature Power Rangers for the feel and look of it. So I guess that's not a question. My question actually was, did you like Last of Us 2?
Um, I liked it until that one thing happened at the beginning.
It's
I
funny.
played it.
I'm a big
I'm a
fan of
huge,
2.
I'm a huge, say that again?
Oh, I'm sorry. I was saying I'm a big fan of 2. I mean, I love 1. 1 is always going
Yeah.
to be that
No,
game.
I mean, I loved part two as well. It's, I know a
Uh,
lot of people are upset about it. But The Last of Us Part Two was, boy, they tugged on my heartstrings so much. I'm like, and then they made me play with Abby. I'm like, come on, I don't want to do this.
it,
But I guess that's the point of it. Just trying to show that these characters in that world were like they're people too. They had these different motivations as well, and they're all driven by revenge, just like Ellie was. So I will say I love part two, but I can understand why some people were upset about
I agree.
it.
It's definitely a controversial game, more than 1. But
Mhm.
it's just funny you mentioned that because I feel like 1 is very much like your story, where it's a protective figure, saving and also being scared at the same time. And the only way to deal with that fear is to just be brutally violent at
Yep.
times. So that's exciting that you have that inspiration from Last of Us. But like we talked about before, your artists put input into the story itself and like changed scenes a little bit and worked with you. Uh, how has it been working with now that you have a full team? I see you have an artist, a colorist, a letterist,
Mhm.
all that. How is it working with such a team now? Because I've only ever had an artist, so to me, it's
Mhm.
always been so cool to see other people work with so many different other people with the lettering and everything. How has that been? How's that experience been for you?
I would actually credit that to the Mad Cave stuff. Um, so last year, I don't know if you're familiar with any Mad Cave Studios books, but I did. I was one of they have an annual talent search where they find regular people like me and Dylan and everyone who else who was one, and they do a talent search for writers and artists. But I was just like you. I found an artist and I said, hey, let's do it like this. But I saw the value in getting that editor. I saw the value in the input from the artist. I was working with a dude named Romeo for Mad Cave, and he was able to, like, it was a true collaboration. We mixed and matched. And like, I wrote the scene, and he's like, "Hey, what about?" Because he changed the entire. When I did the Mad Cave thing, he changed the entire setting of an entire scene, and I was like, you know what? It would fit better if we were in a stable with an empty stable with a bunch of horses. So I think it's very to make it a true collaboration, unless the scene or the plot hinges on the specific thing. I think it can be very valuable if you collaborate with that artist, because to me, I'm not an artist. A lot of the scenes in the art, they're able to picture it in their heads a little bit better than what the writer might be thinking, and they might have a better idea of what can work a little bit better, unless it's like a super specific scene. But I've always pictured it as the artist is the director and the actors, and writer, we're the producers because we pay for it, and we're the writers. So to get that out of them, the very best out of them, and to get the very best out of the scene, I think a lot of times you're gonna have to trust those artists to do what they think is best, or not. I mean, depends on it depends on how you work with that artist as well.
Yeah,
I know Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo. I saw. I think it was We Have Demons. I don't know if you read We Have Demons, but I think
I love that.
I think there was like a script in the back of one of those issues that said Scott wrote something like, "All right, in this scene, so and so happens, or you just do whatever you want. I trust you."
What's funny about like that style is kind of how I went in it too. Is like I had a guideline, like, hey, I want this character to be sad, but you could kind of direct how they look, the position, all that, because who am I to tell them how they're supposed to draw that part? I know some writers are like really in detail, and sometimes that helps an artist where they're like, okay, they want this exactly, I can draw that, they don't have to overthink. But I just think the best work comes out, like you just said, with Snyder and Capullo, where it's like, do something like this, or if you have a better idea, sure, why not?
Yeah, it's like I said, it's valuable, especially getting that input from them, because I honestly don't think the issue Worlds Away #1, I don't think it would have turned out as well as it's turning out if I didn't if I was at like no, it has to be this way. I'm just getting that input from Christian. I was like, yeah, absolutely.
That's awesome. Well, I'm glad to hear that the team is on board and everybody's kind of working together. I do have just a fun question. I always like to ask a fun question. What you now getting it? Obviously, this is going to be a successful Kickstarter. It already is. What if you had a chance to write a series? I'm going to go even more broad than I usually do, because usually I ask if you could write for Marvel or DC, what superhero or what hero you would like to write. But what if, in general, if you were at a chance to write a series? So there's a ton of comics now with really great series like Power Rangers, Ninja Turtles. God, they have series for like The Conjuring now. I mean, it's ridiculous. But what would be a series that you'd be interested in, write, or a character, if that's easier for you? What would be one that you just like, yeah, that's a character one day I'm gonna write?
Tom Taylor has really turned me into a Nightwing fan. Before Tom Taylor's Nightwing, I read it here and there, but I am absolutely in love with Tom Taylor's Nightwing, and I would gladly write Nightwing. I'm that what he's done with it, how fun it is, and how amazing it looks with Bruno Redondo, I think. But how amazing it is! It's like I would absolutely love to write Nightwing. If I was going to Marvel, I would go with my guy right here, Winter Soldier.
Oh wow! that one I usually don't get. I like that.
Yeah, I'm a huge, like, I think Bucky came back right when I started picking up comics again, back like in 2006
Yep.
with Ed Brubaker and Steve Epting. So I was fully on board when Bucky became Captain America. I was like, this is perfect. And then, the Marvel Cinematic Universe happened, and Captain America came out in 2011. And then, like, not long after that, they brought Steve Rogers back, which is fine. I absolutely agree with that. But if we still had a Bucky cap right now, I would still be happy. I would be so happy. But if I had to choose, I would say Nightwing if I was in DC, and absolutely Winter Soldier / Bucky Barnes. It was Captain America.
That's all. Well, that's awesome because I've never gotten Winter Soldier, and not that he's a bad character. I actually got into Captain America about the same time I got into when Ed Brubaker came on. I was like 14 or whatever, and I was like, oh my god, Captain America's cool. And
Yep.
and then Winter Soldier came. I'm like, who is this? And when people got excited for the movie, they had no clue who Winter Soldier was. And I'm
Yep.
just like, this is going to be the greatest movie of all time. It is one of my
It-
favorite superhero movies.
yep. Winter
Uh,
Soldier and Civil War is absolutely one of my
yeah,
favorite comic book movies.
yeah, I think it really does come to, if you're a big fan of that era for Captain America, I think those movies just speak to us because that's
Mhm.
kind of what got me into that type of comics. And then so funny that you say Nightwing because you didn't like all the Rick. God, that was the worst era. Now I am actually on a mission now to read all Nightwing, and I've read all of Chuck Dixon, and it was good. And I'm reading Grayson. It's funny, her name is Grayson. She changed her name to Grayson after writing Nightwing, but she did pretty good. But you're right, it has been a long time after that since I liked the Nightwing comic. I think Kyle Higgins and all them did a good job, but it just didn't speak to me. Tom Taylor gets Nightwing. I'll tell you right now, that first issue he did when he read Alfred's letter, I will say I cried.
Yep.
He hit me right in the heart. So I would love to see more Nightwing. If you can bring that hopeful, really what Nightwing should be. I mean, he'd never be as big as Spider-Man, but he should be the Spider-Man of DC in terms of
Yeah.
that hopefulness and that young, happy, go lucky, despite going through
Especially,
trauma.
yeah, I was gonna say, especially seeing him grow up from the Teen Titans and Robin to now. Yeah, it was absolutely. He should be. I agree with you. He should be that Peter Parker type.
Yeah,
And hopefully, they. I know Tom Taylor is. I think has an exclusive contract with DC or something.
he
So
does.
hopefully he's on. Hopefully he's on there for a while because I'll get every issue.
Yeah, I mean, I think he said his goal when he first got Night when I was reading the Twitter, going through all the horrible ones, but the good Twitters, I was reading it, and he was like, someone said, "How long are you going to be here?" He said, "I hope to be here longer than Wolverine," which Wolverine is like 36 issues, so that's great. I would love a Nightwing to be, a 45 issue. We don't really get long runs anymore, so that would be
Yeah.
awesome. But yeah, those are two good choices. I mean, Winter Soldier, I'm still really happy you said that because I like Winter Soldier. Nobody talks about him.
I'm surprised nobody said what. I guess, yeah, no,
I
he's
usually,
not everyone's favorite, but I tell you what, he's mine.
yeah, I mean, I do get some interesting ones. A lot of people give me like, I think Philip Johnson. He said he wanted to write Moon Knight, which I was like, oh,
That would be
okay, I'd be
that would be
okay with
dope.
that. So yeah, I always like the smaller characters that people know but don't get enough love.
Yeah.
So I'm glad Winter Soldier. I don't even know what Winter Soldier's doing right now. I'm reading Marvel and
He
I'm not sure.
he is he is forever. Even with I like Captain Falcon and the Winter Soldier, but I think Bucky, for the time being, is perpetually going to be Captain America's best friend. I think that's as far as he'll get
Yeah,
for a while.
unfortunately.
Yeah.
But yeah, okay. So let's see. We have. I always like to tell people, give us just a minute pitch. Like if a big time publisher came to you and said, "What's this about?" and you're sitting there for 1 minute, you're like, "How do I pitch this story where I'm going to get picked up?" What would you say? What would be the pitch?
Well, like I said, I would pitch it as it truly is Radiant Black meets God of War. It's this sci-fi fantasy action story that's brutal in some moments. It is heartbreaking in some moments when it's all tied together. Just it's a simple plot with exhilarating action sequences. It's a simple plot that just is tied together by a mother just wanting to save her daughter and by any means necessary. If it means taking out a friend, if it means taking out these mystical beasts, if it means taking out all these different things, even if it costs her that relationship with her daughter, she's willing to do it just to ensure her daughter's safety. Like I said, it's a simple plot, but there's a lot of great things, a lot of great visuals and images in there. Those sci-fi, those fantastical images that ties everything together.
Awesome. I mean, that alone, when you describe two great series, you're like, this is what it is. You're pretty much getting people on board there. All right. So to wrap it up, I always like to say, I know you have the Kickstarter. It's live. Guys, go check it out. The link will be below. Support it. And then, do you know how many issues you're aiming for this series in total?
It's currently planned for 4 issues. I might have to, if funding isn't an issue, it might stretch to 5. But currently it's 4 issues, and I just started the script for number 2. So hopefully after this Kickstarter, we can start production on issue number 2 soon.
That's awesome. I mean, I love when you have like a set number. So I know like this is the story. This isn't going to be 25 issues just because it's just going to be.
Yeah. And this, I'm sorry, and this is like, it will have a beginning, a middle, and end. But if people dig it, if people want more, there's a possibility for more. But like I said, this for now, it is 4 concrete issues, and hopefully people will enjoy it.
That's awesome, man. It's a perfect amount for a graphic novel, which I think I love comics, but my heart is graphic novels and omnibuses because I love that complete form. Like you said, beginning, middle, end, and I get it all there. I'm just so happy. But so with that, now that this is going to be successful, do you have any plans for other? I know you mentioned you had some kind of inspiration from Final Fantasy 9. Did you have any other projects that you wanted to talk about, or are they more hush hush and you're still working on them?
Yeah, I absolutely do. I do have a 6-page story in an anthology for Wild Star Press. It's a pirate comic,
Awesome.
anthology, which is absolutely cool. Me and Rachel Gisler, we worked together on that. That's actually live now. If you go to wildstarpress.com, you'll be able to get a issue it's a very thick anthology. I think it's like $35-ish. But the good thing about this campaign is regardless of whether or not they meet the goal, if you buy a book, then you will absolutely get that book. So
that's awesome.
I have a 6-page story in that Wild Star Press book. And I also have a Mad Cave Studios story coming out. I'm not exactly sure when. I can't really talk about it because they never gave me the okay to talk about it.
Gotcha.
I have a one-shot coming out, and that's going to be my big thing actually. So that'll be nationwide. That'll be in all comic book stores. So keep your eye out for that, please.
That's so awesome.
And then I do have that other project that's currently in super pre-production, but hopefully I'll be able to talk about that soon.
Awesome. Well, I mean, you got a lot on your plate, more than I thought. I thought it was going to be one other project, but that's awesome. So many things.
Sorry.
No, that's great. I love to hear. I love hearing when artists or writers are like, yeah, I got this, that. I'm like, hey, that's what we're here for, right? We want to keep making stuff. So that's awesome. Well, I thank you so much for being on here. I thank you so much for sharing your work with me. That trailer is awesome, guys. I'm going to play it again at the end because I've seen it about 8 times now, but you guys can check it out. And then I will put your link below for the Kickstarter and Twitter so you guys can follow his stuff. Make sure to support this comic. You can even get, I think there's the digital version is like what, $5?
Yes, sir. It is.
Come on, guys. $5.
Yep. And you'll probably get that way before the print one.
Always, especially right now with those printing shortages. Be kind to everybody right now, guys. I see people so rude. It's hard to make stuff. There's no paper. But yeah, thank you so much for coming on. And any last words for the audience who is going to support your stuff?
Yeah, check out Worlds Away #1 on Kickstarter. You can go to search it on Kickstarter, or you can go to worldsawaycomic.com and check it out. But I appreciate you having me.
No problem. You guys enjoy this stuff and make sure to click those links below.